All right, it's 101. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. We got a lot of folks still coming in, but really excited for this one. This is probably the most highly registered webinar we've had in quite some time. So a couple hundred people actually registered for this webinar. So we are recording as we usually do, and this will be available in the LMS afterwards too. So for some reason you missed something, or if you want to share it with your friends, you could do that as well. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. I hope here. John, can you see my screen okay?
I actually, oh, here we go. Okay, it just came up. Yep, we're good.
Right. All right, very good. All right, so some quick housekeeping. I know there was a question at the very beginning. Yes, everyone is muted during this call. Please put your questions in the Q&A. And as always, these webinars are not really meant to be a training session, more an overview of the subject, and you can find more details about this and so many other things in our learning management system. So if you have missed a past webinar and you want to reference it, as I said, we do record these. We do post these to the LMS. You can just go into the LMS, search webinar, and all of our past webinars will come up. So we have some exciting webinars in the future coming up here. So we've got on November 22nd, what's new in Rep Fabric? Well, that attendees will probably trump this one, I'm sure, because it's a question we always get, what are the new modules and features? So John will be doing that on November 22nd, including a lot of AI talk. And speaking of AI, in end of December, John will be doing an AI overview for the plumbing industry. This is more for ASA members. So you can find the link on our website though as well. And again, skipping around here a little bit, on December 6th, we'll be doing a setting your 2025 strategic goals. This is for Rep Fabric customers and prospects who want to understand better how to utilize the goals module within Rep Fabric. If you're planning on attending that class, I would highly recommend taking the LMS course on goals, so you can come prepared with any questions for John. All right, with that, if any future webinars you want to attend, please just go to our website under resources. There's webinars, you'll find a link there, or just type in /webinars on our link. So for those who don't know me, Chief Revenue Officer here at Rep Fabric. I don't have an introduction slide to John. I forgot you're going to be on, John. Apologize, but you can introduce yourself here in a moment. Again, I spent 25 years with manufacturing. In my most recent role before Rep Fabric, I was Vice President of U.S. Trade Sales. My team managed 26 rep agencies. I always make the joke that I am the guy that, as a rep agency, that you love to hate. I'm a recovering manufacturer for that regard. And I know we have some manufacturers on the phone here, so take that in the spirit in which it's intended. So, John, you want to do a quick introduction?
Sure. John Mitchell, founder of Rep Fabric, tech guy early in my career, sales rep, owner, and agency owner, bag carrying salesperson for kind of the second part of my career, and combine those two to forge Rep Fabric. And excited to be here. This is actually the fabric in our name is exactly what we're talking about here in that in my agency, we had probably almost a dozen manufacturer CRM systems that we had to keep updated. And it became a real struggle. It was, it was time consuming for the salespeople to do it. We had to have inside assistance with that rather than maybe doing demand generation and sort of applying the commission dollars that we were paid by our manufacturers and principals to our market for direct demand generation. We were doing a lot of paperwork, and that's a lot of where this comes from. So Scott, take it away.
All right, very good. So the intent here is really to help you understand how CRMSync can increase your communication and help make you and your manufacturer better. So here's a quick outline. We probably won't take the whole hour here. This might be a little overstated on the time, so we'll have some time at the end to answer questions. Again, please put your questions in the Q&A. We'll try to either answer them as we go. We'll definitely get to them all at the end. So we're going to go kind of through the why, the how, and the what now. So the first question that I've gotten so many times over the past few years is, why do manufacturers ask for so much data and reporting, or ask me to fill out their CRM system? And by the way, if you're not having to do any of these things, just know that it's coming. So it really varies by industry and, of course, by manufacturer. So this is a little bit on the why. For those who've attended our past webinars, you may have seen this before, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. But I do want to talk about kind of why manufacturers do this. Why are they asking you to fill out their CRM system or asking you for reporting? And it really comes down to the question of, hey, why is my regional manager always asking me for these reports? So I want to start off with a quick poll, if I could. So let's go to the polls. And there's going to be 2 questions on this poll. If you would just answer them both right away, you might have to scroll down to see them. So the poll should be open by now. So 2 questions on there. If you would vote on this. The first question is really all about, hey, how many of your lines are asking you for some type of reporting or regular calls to review activities, opportunities, projects, and jobs? And for those manufacturers out there, you can select any one of you can either select number 1 or number 4 probably, but if you are asking for those things. All right, we've got almost 75% participation already, so thank you, that's awesome. And the second question is going to be, how many of your lines ask you to update their CRM system directly or for information that they load into their CRM system? Again, the options 1, 2, 3 or more, none. So, wow. By the way, we did this same poll, I think, John, remind me, 2, maybe 3 years ago. And I'll share those results with you here in a moment. But it's amazing that this has increased quite a bit. So, okay, I'm going to end the polls here. Looks like almost everybody jumped in. So we got over 95% participation on that one, which is awesome. So to summarize here, and you can still vote if you want to, but the results of the poll are, for the first question on, how many lines are asking for reporting, 89% of you said 3 or more. So that is up significantly. It used to be about 30% were 3 or more, and 30% were 2, and 30% were 1. So now it's 3 or more for your manufacturers are asking you for data. And this is a crazy stat too. How many of your lines are asking you to update their CRM system? It's now up to, it used to be, last time we asked this question, I think it was around 25% was 3 or more, maybe 20% was 3 or more. And then the rest of them were either 1 or 2. Now the answer is 60% say 3 or more. So you guys are spending a lot of time filling out CRM systems. If we look at the answers being 1 or 2 or 3 or more, it looks like it's 83%. So 83% of you are filling out some kind of CRM system. So that's pretty incredible, and kind of gets back to what John was saying in his particular instance, where he was back in 2013 filling out a dozen, right? So pretty crazy on those stats. All right, so thank you for participating in that. So again, so why is this person always asking for so much reports? It's because he or she was reporting to a guy like me who was asking all kinds of questions. How are we doing out there? How are we doing in showrooms? How's our new products going? How are we doing in projects? How are we doing with national accounts, et cetera? And I needed that data because someone was always asking me, and that somebody was this guy, the CEO, right? So the guy that I reported to is always asking me for data, because guess what? As long as he hits his targets, he's untouchable, right? So as long as he's hitting his targets, he knows he's doing a good job and he's got the data behind it. So keep in mind, this is not nefarious. I know I use the Dr. Evil example and the office guy, but at the end of the day, your manufacturer is really just trying to get better at what they do. So they're trying to get data from you so they can analyze it and come up with ideas. Those ideas are going to lead to, new products or better commercialization or better supply chain execution. So I always use the example of new products because I'm a product guy at heart. So I'm going to walk you through a very quick example. Again, some of you may have seen this case study before, but think about it this way. If we're looking to do a product introduction, so I'm going to launch a product based on an idea I've gotten from the field. I'm going to put together a great commercialization plan. We're going to launch it, and then we're going to sit back and ask, did this work, right? And when I went and said I launched this product, and I went back to my reps and asked them, hey, is the new product working? I got a lot of ambiguous answers, right? It could have, we wouldn't spend so much time on service calls, or, yeah, I think people will like it. It's just going to take some time, or, I didn't have the right collateral, or we've shown it to a lot of people. Some did it, some don't, some don't, but all these ambiguous answers really came back to my favorite one, which was, hey, Scott, just trust me. It's our job. We're going to go out and sell it. We know what we're doing. We're good. So let's go through just a quick case study here. Again, some of you may have seen before, so I'll do it very quickly. I always call this the BBV, the best new blue valve in the marketplace. So think of it as I'm the VP of sales and marketing for ABC Manufacturing. I developed the best blue valve known to the planet. I introduced the best new blue valve, and I've got great collateral. I've got all the marketing funds needed. I launched on January 1st. What happens come February? Orders are light. I ask why, and everything's anecdotal. Trust me, Scott. So with lack of data, I get frustrated, and I start hounding my regional managers, asking them what's going on out there. They tell me all the reasons what's not working, but without any data. So I wait another month. And now we're into March, and now I get even more frustrated. So then I call my buddy who owns my rep agency in New York City, and he says, "Oh, guess what, Scott? We would have sold it, but you can't sell blue valves in New York because it's a union place. They got to be red valves." So I shake my head and I call my rep over in California, and they say, "Guess what, Scott? Blue valves don't work in California. Everything has to be green in California. You guys should have known that when you launched it, right?" So we had bad data going in, but now I'm like, well, wait a minute though. I know this blue valve is great. So what's going on in the rest of the country? Because it's not selling in New York, it's not selling in California, it's not selling almost anywhere else except for where I was earlier this week when I was down in Tampa. And guess what? It's selling in Florida, man. Florida, the gal who owns that rep agency is killing with this new blue valve. And so I call her and I say, "Hey, you're doing terrific. Like, what's going on? Tell me the best practices you're doing so I can tell the rest of the team." And she tells me, "Oh, Scott, I've got a terrific team. We know everybody. We're best friends with everybody. We could sell anything." And I say, "Well, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude, but the last new product we sold, we didn't do well in Florida." And she kind of shakes her head and says, "Yeah, I don't know why that is." And so now what's happened? I'm in a data drought, right? I don't know what's going on in the marketplace. So I need to start getting data so I can better understand how to activate this product, right? So what do? So here I am sitting there, the best boss in the world, don't know what to do to get data. So I put in a CRM system, right? All kinds of options out there, whether it's Salesforce, whether it's Manufabric, whether it's Sugar, whether it's Dynamics. But I put in my CRM system and I go, "Guess what, folks? If you're my rep, you're going to fill this out or I'm not going to pay your commissions." Which sounds great, right? I'm going to get all the data I need. The problem is, if you're a rep agency and you have 12 lines like John did, guess what? Now you have to fill out 12 different Salesforces or 12 different Sugars or 12 different Dynamics. Oh, by the way, you have to learn all those systems too. So it's very hard. It's very much a drag on your selling time. So, and guess what? If you don't do it, bye-bye. Wave goodbye to that line, right? So there's some options here we can do. And we're going to talk about those options, right? We'll get into the how, right? So, but here's the thing. If you think about this approach, you know you have a great team. You're pretty darn sure they're actually really good at activating products. And you may already be tracking this systematically through RepFabric, right? So you need to look for ways to operationalize this and get this in front of your manufacturer and be proactive in your communicating the great things that you're doing for them, right? And I know a lot of you kind of roll your eyes and say, "Oh man, this is just a pain. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this." I always reference what my dad says: you don't have to like it, but you're going to have to deal with it, right? And so just understand you're going to have to deal with it. And I would actually ask you to embrace it because, as I said, your manufacturer is asking you for this data because they want to get better. So think about it. If you give them that good data, whether it's through reporting or whether through CRM syncing, ultimately it's going to lead to better products, better service, better supply chain execution. The manufacturer is going to be better. In the case of the manufacturer, the rep's going to be better, and you're going to have happier customers, which ultimately leads more sales and more commission dollars for everybody. So let's talk a little bit about this data drought. Let's talk about the how, if you're leaving your manufacturers in that data drought. So here's the how. So I should have done a poll on this one, but because I knew we had a mixed crowd here, I decided not to. So I just answered the questions for you here. But John, feel free to jump in with your own
Yeah,
question.
I was just gonna, I know we've got a lot of folks from the electronics world here too. I was just gonna point out that it's even more pronounced than, in the electronics area because of the lead time and chipsets, for example. And I remember selling, lighting and power supply where you had to be able to know the number of wafers you were going to start 2 years from now. And so this data is even more important in that kind of long lead supply chain. And as such, I mean, honestly, we're seeing a lot of transitions in various markets where demand generation at the specifier level is becoming what's feeding into the MRP systems of your manufacturers so that they have that product on hand when it finally goes to get built. And that's not just in electronics, right? That's in all different market verticals, including building and construction verticals, where Scott used the example here of the big blue valve. So it's going to continue to be an item that has to get done. And with the advent of people putting advanced planning and optimization systems in for their MRP systems as a manufacturer, the more of that happens, the more data demand is going to be generated with specific specific products that need to be built on demand to be efficient, right? And deploy capital to be efficient from your manufacturer. So we're only seeing it increase, as Scott pointed out, that it's, the amount of responses of people who have to fill out and do more manufacturer reporting is probably 2 to 3x what it was 2 years ago, so that comes with real costs, right? Real people have to fill out those reports, real people have to fill out those forms. And what we're talking about here is how do we make that as efficient as possible? Scott, go ahead.
All right, cool. All right, so again, I was going to do polls here, but decided I just, for the sake of time and in the sake of what I thought some responses might be, I answered this for you. So, John, if you had a manufacturer coming to you asking you to fill out their CRM system, your first answer might be this, right? No, I don't want to do it. And by the way, that might work, okay, if you're, depending on who the manufacturer is and depending who the agency is and what the relationship is. Probably not the best answer, though, right? Especially when we consider the other two I'm going to give you here, because guess what? If you do say no, again, we go back to this little guy. You might be saying goodbye to that line, and you don't want to have that kind of adversarial relationship with your manufacturer regardless. So what's the second option for answering that question? A living report. So a living report is a report that you build one time. It can be based on activities or opportunities or other objects within RepFabric. You build this once. Every time you open it, it refreshes. You hit the email button. You send it to your regional manager in a matter of 2 minutes instead of filling out a call report for hours on end at the end of the month. So this is a very efficient way to share information with your manufacturer. I've gotten the comments, do they read them? Do they not? Hey, that's really up to them. At the end of the day, you're showing them what an all-star you are as far as what you're doing for their line and giving them the data they need to be successful. So a quick little anecdote on that. One of my old reps actually told John about, it's 2 AMRs ago, that he saved his marriage because instead of spending 3 hours every Sunday night filling out reports for his manufacturer, he built 10 living reports and he was just emailing them within a matter of minutes. So I'm sure the saving the marriage is a bit of an exaggeration, but we'll take it, right? We'll take it. And by the way, if you don't know how to do this, and I know Sarah will be love hearing me say this, we do have a fantastic course in the learning management system that teaches you how to do it. I am by no means an expert on building Excel files. I did this myself. It takes you about 15 minutes to do it once, and then after that, it updates, seamlessly, pretty much. So, any other comments on living reports, John?
No, that's really one of 4 methods that we have to sort of address the data exchange between the rep firm and a manufacturer. But that's probably the cleanest, easiest one for sure.
Cleanest and easiest, yeah. And we're only going to talking about the second time. I want to mention living reports, but really the third answer here is what we're going to talk about for the day and why you're here. It's around CRM syncing. So my hope is to show you kind of what it is and also kind of what it looks like from the lens of a manufacturer. So the next few slides in the presentation, whether sorry, like I said, we do have manufacturers on here. So for those rep agencies that are on here, put yourself in the manufacturer's shoes. And I'm going to show you a quick snippet of a presentation I walked through with manufacturers. So in this case, I'm using Salesforce as the target system, meaning that's what the manufacturer is running. Salesforce, as you know, probably 70% is what manufacturers run. But keep in mind, we can do this when you see the Salesforce logo. We can do this with ManuFabric. We can do this with Sugar. We can do this with Dynamics. So the target system, is really less dependent. It's really more the concepts I want to show you here. So what we usually start with when we're talking to manufacturers is understanding, does their CRM investment need improvement? Keep in mind, if you have so my old organization was $500 million in revenue. We spent 7 figures on Salesforce. So we need to see the return on that investment. So the problem is that you get frustrated if you don't have better at quoting and tracking your projects, or they're annoyed that they can't do the opportunity follow through, still hit or miss. They don't know if their campaign and promotions are being effective. They're upset they can't tell the impact of activity to sales. They're concerned they don't know where their assets are and what kind of shape they're in. So think about my old world. We set a bunch of faucet walls and showroom displays and didn't have a really good, clean way of tracking that. And so there's systems that help you do that, including RepFabric, obviously.
And the equivalent to that is also in the electronic side, things like your demo boards and sample kits and so on. Right?
And in the furniture side, conference tables and whatever you're lending out. So there's all kinds of use cases for sure. And then this last one I just want to pause on for a minute is frustrated that you can't trust your funnel for SOIP. Some companies call it SOIP, some call SIOP. At the end of the day, it's sales operations and inventory planning. Think about this. This is when the sales team gets together with the operations team, and they sit down in a room and they plan, whether it's for the month or for the quarter, what have you. It's a pretty hard discussion to have if you don't know what's coming down the funnel, right? And that's a big problem for a lot of manufacturers that don't have a good CRM system or don't have one that have good data in it. So that's can be a very frustrating conversation for sure. So here's some benefits of CRM syncing. So number one, again, Salesforce is a placeholder there. It could be any system, but increasing the user adoption, okay? And we'll talk about how that works here at the end of the slide. Increase of data quality. So data is going to be much cleaner coming in, whether it's accounts or opportunities. They'll be updated much faster because they'll be on the fly. So you're not gonna have less stale information. And the other big benefit for the manufacturer and for the rep agency is you don't have to learn a different system, right? You don't have to learn Salesforce for this manufacturer and Salesforce that manufacturer, which are going to be probably very different. And then also Dynamics and then Sugar and what have you. You're only living in one system, so you don't have to, the manufacturers doesn't have to train you on how to use their system. And so that means you're going to be much more likely to put the data in for them. If we go back to the faster and cleaner and less stale, let's be kind of frank here, be honest, that if you're having to fill out a manufacturer's CRM system, you're probably doing that at the end of the week or the end of the month, right? And you're trying to knock it out once, and you're probably putting in the most minimal data possible that makes the manufacturer happy and gets them some information they need, but may not be the complete picture of the opportunity or the job or the project or the quote. And so by syncing these two systems together, you're going to get a much broader and much faster and much cleaner look at what you're putting in there. Finally, and this is the biggest thing, this is the biggest reason to do this, is to increase the time that the sales team is spending where they get paid, which is with customers, right? At the end of the day, we don't want to be doing double entry of opportunities and spending time doing that when we could be calling on customers. There's studies out there, and it varies on who you ask. I've seen anywhere from $250 to $600 is how much a sales call cost, right? And so if you're spending time filling out a system as opposed to calling on customers, we're burning a lot of money there. So then again, the other piece is the increased effectiveness, because what happens is you're going out after you complete a call, you're usually doing your updates on your phone, and that's getting put into Salesforce within minutes. So John, any other comment?
Yeah, I mean, just one other point to that is even as a rep agency, rather than having to train your people on, you know, all these different manufacturer CRM systems, you can train them on one system and get good adoption. That system being Rep Fabric and account manager. And as part of that, now we're able to provide that data up to the manufacturer's systems in a structured way that checks the boxes and gives them richer data, as Scott points out. So it's significantly more focused training on what technology tools your outside salespeople and inside salespeople would use. And we kind of unify that tool into one. And so that's a great benefit by itself. And from a manufacturer perspective, many manufacturers struggle with getting their internal people to use their CRM systems, and which makes it even more difficult to get their external people to successfully use their those systems as well. And as such, really that problem also goes away. So it's a win-win-win across the board. Last but not least, we did a time study probably about 2 years ago with one of our early adopters on the CRMSync product process. And what we found was that a typical opportunity from a lifetime costs in terms of updates, if you think about not just the creation of the opportunities, but the touches along the way as that opportunity continues through the funnel to hopefully an order and a design win. That typically would cost about $175 to keep both systems up to date. And with CRMSync technology, that really drops it down to about $25 end to end based on the people that are keeping those systems updated. So it's got a huge bang for the buck. It's 400% ROI on this type of thing. So Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So the next kind of logical question is, okay, what can we sync with these two systems? So here are the different syncable objects, and I'm glad, again, this is using Salesforce and RepFabric. I'm glad John mentioned ESI account managers, so you could put that over here as well. So the idea here is that you can sync master data. So whether that's accounts, parts, pricing, you can also sync selling efforts like AJs and opportunities, jobs and projects, quotes and samples. And you can also sync transactional type things like orders, invoices, and sales and commissions, which might be kind of cool because then you don't have to load your sales and commissions in from a PDF, right? The majority of our syncing is opportunities. That's what most manufacturers care about. We are seeing a shift where more and more manufacturers are getting interested in activities as well. So it really depends on what kind of manufacturer you have. So, electronics is going to be NBOs, right? But there could be other types that are really interested in activities. So once we understand what we want to sync, we then go and we create a data model between the system and RepFabric. So here's kind of just a quick example. So we get aligned on what fields we're going to sync. This is showing you obviously the RepFabric opportunity details. So typically it's going to be things like the customer, the stage, the follow-up date, the estimated close date, maybe the quantity, and certainly the value, stuff that most manufacturers care about. In the case of electronics, it could even be like the registration numbers and those kind of things. So once we have those, and oh, by the way, it could be line items as well. So once we have those aligned, now we're ready to go and sync, and it's typically a two-way sync of accounts or opportunities, sometimes quotations, what have you. So I want to go through kind of the workflow of downflowing and upflowing opportunities, okay? Because I said that's typically what people are looking to sync. Then we'll show you a quick little video of an actual demonstration of how it works. And then we'll go through just some final steps here. So with that, think about if there's an opportunity, if the manufacturer wants to send stuff down to the rep agency, so they have an opportunity within Salesforce, they want to send it down to RepFabric. And the way they do that is they can actually link it to an existing opportunity in RepFabric. And once that opportunity is now linked, now the two systems are talking to each other. Some cases, though, the opportunity may not exist. So it's a new opportunity in Salesforce. The Salesforce company, does that exist in RepFabric? Meaning, if it's a branch at Ferguson or what have you, does that company exist in RepFabric? If it does, then now we can create the opportunity in RepFabric. If it doesn't, we then want to create the company in RepFabric. And now we have the company created. Now we can create the opportunity. And now we sync the two opportunities back and forth. So that's kind of how a downflow would work. Good.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention, so what we're doing here is in these scenarios, it's where a manufacturer, for instance, has a lead list, whether that be for specific, projects or jobs or things that come in from their tech support line that you want to operationalize your rep firm outside and inside salespeople with to go chase those opportunities for you, right? Could be, first time buy reports and things like that. So that you can kind of control that and use CRMSync to broker it out to your various rep agencies so you can then take action on it and hopefully, turn those prospects into closed deals, right? And so as part of this, the two-way sync, what happens is first you get system alignments between companies in Salesforce and your Salesforce as a manufacturer with companies in their rep system. And once those are aligned, then future creations of new opportunities at those companies really becomes just a default thing. And the two-way sync works where it's field updates in both systems go back and forth between both systems once they're created together and linked together. So
nice. All right, so the more prevalent is manufacturers wanting to have opportunities flowed up to them. So we call this upflowing opportunities. So how that works is if you have an existing opportunity in RepFabric, you're going to go through and link it. If there's an opportunity in Salesforce, you can link those two together. And now the Salesforce opportunity is now linked, and now we're two-way syncing it. Now, the other one is if you have a new opportunity in RepFabric, you're going to go through and see, does that company exist in Salesforce or the manufacturer CRM system? If it does, then you can create the opportunity. If it doesn't, you'd need to create the company in Salesforce. Now, not every manufacturer allows rep agencies to create companies. So it's something we talk about during the discovery process with the manufacturer. Some do not want reps adding companies in Salesforce or their target system, sugar, what have you. But most do. So yes, you can create the company in Salesforce. Once that company is created, now we can create the opportunity. And now we're linking those two together again so that they talk back and forth. So I'm going to show you a video how this works. It's about 2.5 minutes. So I'll just kind of walk you through this here, this kind of demo. So here I am creating a new opportunity in Rep Fabric for fine line engineering. And I'm going to go through and change the stage that I'm in. In this case, it's in qualification. And I'm going to save all my basic details in there. Excuse me. And now I'm going to go through and I'm going to add line items to this opportunity. And the way that I'm adding line items is I just go in and hit the new button. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go and use the magnifying glass to see what I'm going to pull up. And in this case, I'm going to filter on the standard price book after I can just start typing in part numbers, what have you. So that's where you type in your part numbers and your product name, what have you there. In this case, I'm going to filter to query the manufacturer system. So what this is actually doing is actually pulling the standard price book from Salesforce in this case. So now I can just start typing in the part number that I need to put on this opportunity, enter my quantities there. So in this case, quantity of 10, save that line item and continue on that workflow. So again, I'm going to just do one more part number here so you can see it again. So I'm going to add some more parts. And in this case, I'm again looking at the standard price book for the manufacturer. And now I can go through and select whatever part I need, update my quantities if needed, hit save. So now I've got line items added to this particular opportunity. I'm going to go through and I'm going to use my CRMSync tab here and click on the tab and say, is this CRMSync ready? So as you see here now, I'm going to look at the magnifying glass so I can see if this opportunity already exists in Salesforce. And I can pull up the terms. So it's going to look at company and the name of the opportunity. So in this case, with these parameters, no, it doesn't exist. Let me take that company name off and see if the Meridian Design Project is in there. No, it's not. Let me just look for Meridian. Maybe it's just under Meridian. There's a Meridian building, but that's not the one that I want to attach it to because that's not the same opportunity. So we're going to create a new opportunity in the target system. I do that by simply hitting the new button. Again, I'm going to look to link the companies. Remember, we talked about if you can add companies or not. You can see there's a little bit kind of different spelling of fine line with the capitalization. So now I did a little aliasing. And I'm going to create the opportunity in the target system by hitting the create button. And now I'm going to have a new button show up here that says sync and view. So I can push sync to update the target system for future opportunities. And I can use the view button to see this opportunity within the target system, in this case, Salesforce. And as you can see, all the map fields have carried over into Salesforce. So that's a quick and dirty on how it works. John, any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, so obviously there's configurations that manufacturers often have customized their Salesforces quite heavily, and there's lots of toggles and switches that we have as options to, for example, pull back things like part numbers and different price books based on what you have in Salesforce or perhaps on even another system. And so we've really baked out, with the dozens of integrations we've really baked out how data can reside in your Salesforce and not in Rep Fabric, but still be looked up by Rep Fabric and so on and so forth. So, it is a little bit of an engineering project to look at that, but typically these projects are 30 days or less for us once they get started, because we built the engine to be able to support this today. So,
yep, perfect. I put the security piece on here. This is a question we get almost right away from especially the IT folks at the manufacturer, like, oh, you're going to be getting into our data and that kind of thing. It's really not. It's not any more access than you already have with community license. So we do have we usually have the security discussion though at some point. So one thing to know is that we are partners with most of these other CRM companies, and so and we do obviously a lot of robust testing as well around here. By the way, if a lot of times you may get pushback from the manufacturer that they don't have the IT bandwidth to handle this kind of project. There's really not a heavy lift from their IT department. There's really two steps. It's they make sure that their Salesforce is API enabled, which many times it usually already is, particularly if it's doing any kind of communication with their ERP system. So it's more just making sure that that box is checked. And then it's also giving us access to a sandbox environment. So it's not a heavy drag on IT. This is not an IT project for the manufacturer. It's really a sales project. So we do need to have conversations with the business, obviously, to understand what they want to sync. But at the end of the day, this is not a big drag on this because we're doing the engineering. So
And so I do want to just highlight that for folks that maybe don't live in these systems every day. All that means is that if your rep logs into if you're the manufacturer and you're running Salesforce, your rep logs into Salesforce with a rep ID that you've given them to Salesforce, such as their community ID or, this person at your repfirm.com. And that permission on that user profile or on that permission set just needs to be API enabled, which is one checkbox. And that's really it. So it's not, oh, let me get this budgeted for IT projects for 2025 because they're too busy right now.
Right.
It literally is checking one box. And and so it's that straightforward. So
So John, I get this question a lot, but I'll just pose it to you. So today, if I'm a manufacturer with a CRM system, I may have, one license for an agency, or I might have several community licenses because there's, I want all the outside people on that license, right? So there may be 10 licenses I have for one agency. So is that how it works for this, where you keep those 10 licenses, or how does it go from there?
yeah, so we see various items, but we've been able to save manufacturers money in the past with their CRM providers, because rather than giving each individual at a rep firm their own ID to log in to track their individual opportunities, a lot of times you can consolidate that into one ID for that rep firm and save on licensing costs for your CRM provider as a manufacturer. And what we're able to do is still identify which salesperson responsible for that opportunity in the payloads that we trade back and forth with the CRM, but you consolidate it from one license. We have one customer that was able to save close to $100,000 a year from their CRM provider by no longer having individual sales reps have their own and unique licenses into that manufacturer's CRM system. So there's some cost savings there, as well as the training cost savings that you get.
Yeah,
So,
there's a lot of soft costs too, like you just mentioned too. There
yeah.
could be some hard costs. So what we typically do with manufacturers is, hey, here's the steps. Is after we say, yeah, this is something we want to do, we typically exchange NDAs. After they pay the first invoice, we go through, develop the data model, we get in the sandbox, and then we roll that out. Rolling it out involves training the rep agencies on how to use it. So, but again, I say there's invoice, always a question on cost, right? And so the cost varies greatly, depending on the complexity of the project. If it's a very simple project, what you're typically talking is about $5,000 of one-time non-recurring engineering costs, and basically our team having to do the heavy lifting on connecting the two systems. Then $150 per month for each party to maintain the connection. So I didn't want that to be lost. There is cost for the rep agency as well. So if this is something that's taking you 5 or 10 minutes a week, it's probably not worth it. Probably living reports are more for you. If it's taking you hours, then it's absolutely worth it for you. If it's even taking you 1 hour, it's absolutely worth it for you. So, all right. So for what now? So if you're a rep agency, by the way, if you're a manufacturer, please just contact me directly. If you're a rep agency and you simply can't say no to somebody or just give them a living report, again, figure out how time consuming is it for you. If you feel like it'd be beneficial for your manufacturer, and you find a path to the right person. One of my old mentors said, you have to find mom. And I said, who's mom? And he said, mom's the one who cares, right? So you got to find, typically it's going to be the VP of sales kind of person. So get to him or her, somebody hopefully has the vision for this kind of thing. It's not the IT person. It could start with the Salesforce effectiveness or the sales operations person. That could be the path. Initiate the conversation, ask them to talk to us, right? So, and if you would, once you initiate, if they're interested, just send an introductory email between yourself and the manufacturer and to me. And I'll give you my email address here at the end. And then I'll go through, I'll meet with you, manufacturer, and I'll keep you updated on how the discussion goes. And that's about it, really. So John, any other comments on CRMSync before we get to towards the end of our program here?
Yeah, I mean, I think this just makes sense, right? At the end of the day, we need to be more efficient than our competitors in order to grow our business. And right now, some of the biggest companies in the world have API connections between them and their supply chain partners. And as an example, we're hearing more and more about things like contract manufacturers that are directly connected to distributors and directly connected to manufacturers for parts that they order. And this is essentially doing the salesperson equivalent of that. And in those examples, we've heard that, anytime you have to touch an order that goes to your supply chain partner, distributor, for example, if a human being touches it, it costs $75, right? That's kind of the going rate. Whereas placing those orders through automated MRP systems costs 25 cents or less per line item. And what we're trying to do is bring that forward here to probably some of your most valuable people in your organization and in your partners' organizations, which are those salespeople that are turning over the rocks for you in order to grow sales and grow your commissions. And so, this is an exciting product, and we're excited to be rolling it out to you guys full strength here. So,
Thanks, John. All right, as we end up, before we get into, I know we have several questions here, so we'll get to the questions here at the end, but a couple of quick plugs as always. We do have a course for manufacturers. So if you're a manufacturer, or if you know a manufacturer that could benefit from learning how to work with independent reps even more, please let us know. I give this course a couple times a year, and really talks about the advantages of working with independent reps. So if you have a distributor who's looking for a CRM system, please let them know about DistiFabric. If you have a manufacturer, or if you are a manufacturer that's in need of a CRM system, check us out at manufabric.com, or as we just talked about now, if you already have a CRM system, look into CRMSync with us. And please do follow us on LinkedIn. Great picture of John there that he loves. I'll leave it on there just to make him laugh. So with that, we'll get into the Q&A, and there's my contact info there, so if you need it. So let me go to Q&A. All right. Do you sync with Model N? Ooh,
I'll take that one, Scott. So yes, we've had discussions with Model N. We don't have an active production integration with Model N, but it's certainly from a technology standpoint very, very doable. Today, what we sync to probably over a dozen other systems. Just Model N doesn't happen to be one of them. And what we generally do is we kind of RepFabric, we develop the connector so that we can talk to any Model N system, and we do that typically on our project and on our dollar investments with engineering. What we would charge a new Model N customer that wants to connect into RepFabric or account manager would be the adapter piece, which is the ability to translate the data specifically for that manufacturer into your system. And so that's where we're just really looking for a customer who says, hey, go on Model N, and we'll light it up as an engineering project and get it connected. So there's no barrier there. Yep.
Perfect. This one might be you as well, John. If you store the report on a OneDrive and the principal has a link to view it, is there a way for automatically update when they open the file? I can do it locally, but over the web, it does not seem to update automatically.
Yeah, there are some parameters in there, Charlie. If you set up the file in the correct way where it refreshes automatically, let's say on a nightly basis, and that's posted into a OneDrive shared link, the viewers of that shared link would be able to see those updates on a daily basis. So I think there's just some config parameters inside of the nightly refreshes that you need to program into the Excel file, and then it will update all by itself. And anybody who looks at it will see those updates. So if you want to contact support on that, support at repfabric.com, we can make sure you get set up that way. Yep.
Awesome. Michael says, for these reports to be valid, there needs to be an accurate data in the system. I'd like to hear from the audience, who is entering the data into the CRM, the sales engineer or the admin? So we can't open it to the audience, unfortunately, on this platform, but what I will say is I can tell you that from my discussions, it varies, obviously. A lot of times it's an admin, right? Particularly if it's a heavy load, and meaning it's taking more than a couple minutes to update a CRM system. There's usually a centralized figure doing those updates. So again, that means the data is not going to be that clean. It's also going to be dated as well. And so that's kind of why we kind of push the idea of CRM syncing, because the admin's not going to have the context of the opportunity by the time
and we see a lot of time is also an evolution. So our technology CRMSync supports both really all three ways. The outside salespeople just directly pushing data into the manufacturer's system, and an admin person or someone who's responsible for that, like a product manager within the rep agency, pushes and pulls data that's queued up based on what the outside salespeople do, and we call that the admin managed version. And then as people kind of get started on this, they might migrate between those two. And then the third one, which is really not used as much yet, is the that true full headless integration. And we've got the capabilities to do that where the data just gets swept into the systems back and forth. But you as a rep agency, you get to choose on which of those three modes you want to use that works best for your organization. So
Awesome.
and I will add one more thing to that too, actually, Michael. You mentioned the idea of accurate data in the system. Believe it or not, most of the time where we've had some challenges is where there's lots of duplication of the same accounts inside of a manufacturer system, and so letting the rep agency choose which Tesla customer is the real customer that you should create your opportunities on. That tends to be the kind of the data blocker. But a lot of what we do during the implementation side includes really mapping the company names between the two systems automatically and building up that aliasing, what we call aliasing between the two systems early on in the project so that it creates less need for manual touches. So we've got tools that do that.
I think that answered the next question on manually syncing the opportunity too, right? So it just depends, right? I got a question. Do we get a lot of pushback about getting sandbox access? John, you might want to, I mean, personally, the ones I've been involved in the past couple of years, no, it's usually not a big deal.
Yeah, I would say no. I think the only time we do is when people don't actually know if they have a sandbox from their CRM provider. That's more so that, and a lot of times the CRMs that are maybe home built, if you will, and not from a major CRM provider. Sometimes those sandboxes are a little bit more difficult to get going because they may not even be reflective of the production system that people have.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, most of the time once the IT person learns all they have to do is make sure APIs are enabled and a sandbox and they're done, they get to us pretty quick because they want to be off to the next thing, right?
Yeah, we've done integrations as quick as 2 days when all that's, so.
What CRMs are you able to sync with? We have a proprietary system that aren't like the typical Salesforces, et cetera. It really depends on APIs available, but we can work with you. There's other means of doing this beyond APIs John just mentioned. So happy if you want to reach out, send me an email. We can definitely talk with you about different solutions for you. So and answer any pricing questions.
Yeah, we basically have database connectors, if that's the best way to get to it, where we've got connectors into various SQL databases. If that's where it starts, that's what we can look at,
Good. Question here, how does ManuFabric and RepFabric, can you talk about how ManuFabric and RepFabric would sync? I'll take a run at this and I'll let John jump in too. The actual workflow is very similar to the video you saw a minute ago with Salesforce. The biggest difference is the two systems are configured much more similarly. So it's an easier configuration since it's both our systems. But John, I don't know if you have any more comments on that, ManuFabric to RepFabric.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, that's the no drag integrations because we control both sides, right? And so, we've already got all that product engineered to be able to trade data with almost no configuration and no delay on that. So that's kind of the beauty of that, where if you've got a lot of manufacturers, reps who you as a manufacturer need a system to consolidate the ManuFabric product, is able to not just trade opportunity information, but also take a lot of the information you get as a manufacturer, like maybe you're doing quotes and you want to downflow those into your rep systems so that they can take follow-up actions on it. That's a great way to do it is with the ManuFabric system because that kind of information just trades seamlessly and operationalizes your outside field sales team. So
excellent. Do you sync with Construct Connect, Dodge, or ATS? And the ATS answer is yes. Construct Connect and Dodge is possible, but we also have a program called Lead Loader, which helps you pull in those leads pretty nicely. So you can kind of do picking and choosing and funneling and that kind of thing. So John, any other comments there?
Yeah, I would just say for the most part, for building and construction folks that use Construct Connect or Dodge, typically they're pretty expensive. And so because of that, we don't see a lot of rep agencies able to pay their bills for the territories they cover. And so what we ended up doing is distilling that down to the CSV and Excel exports that you can get from those systems And then like we do with our Outlook add-in where you can create opportunities and so on and so forth, we created an Excel add-in that allows you to select the rows of interesting, leads and projects and things you want to work on and just fire that in. We do the same thing for first-time buy reports as well. From some of the, on the electronic side for people providing first-time buy reports from distributors, it's the same kind of idea. So.
Just question on someone still has is running Empowering and they're interested in Rep Fabric. I would say just send me an email. We can absolutely have that conversation.
Yeah, and I would say that we've just about, so part of our merger with Empowering has us so that our CRMSync capabilities actually work for account manager as well. And we are finishing that project as we speak. So we will have CRMSync connected for CRMSync engine connected to account manager here in the next couple of weeks. And what that really does is that for manufacturers who have manufacturers rep agencies that run both Rep Fabric and Empowering, this one connection to the CRMSync product would give you data from potentially both of those platforms, right?
Nice. The question is the 5,000 NRE cost for each rep or for each rep network? It's a one-time cost for the rep network, if you will. So it's for the manufacturer. So another question is who pays the NRE? Is it the rep or the manufacturer? We've seen it both ways, right? So it depends on who's feeling the biggest pain and who wants to pay the bill. Typically, most of the times it's the manufacturer, but we have seen reps that say, "Hey, I'm willing. If my manufacturer won't do it, I'm willing to step up and spend the money there too." So really just depends. And that brings us to all of the questions that I have in here, John. So John, thanks for taking the time this afternoon. To the participants, we all know that how valuable your time is. So always want to thank you as well for taking the time. If you missed it or you want to share it with your friends, like I said, it'll be posted to the learning management system here probably in about 2 or 3 days. You'll see that kind of in next week. So you'll be able to access this. Very good. Anything else, John?
No, thanks everyone.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.